many of us here know, especially the folks here at the table, know that that environmental racism is also part of the vein of systemic, societal, and institutional racism that's pervasive, and it's kind of at the foundation of the formation of our country. It is for this very reason that we partnered together to explore, another vein of the larger problem. Oftentimes we speak of place-based racism, such as environmental injustice, and we talk about the disproportionate impacts on communities of color that have, low social and political capital. But I think another facet of this low capital and disproportionate impacts is at the workplace. So you're at home with your family and your kids, and you might live close to toxic waste facilities and environmental hazards. But what happens when you're hit with a double whammy? Most folks spend 9 to 8 hours, maybe a little more at home. They have dinner with their family if they can. They go to sleep and they wake up to do an honest day's work. And more often than not, communities of color, low-income communities of color, and rural residents are the ones doing the backbreaking work, and they are the most likely to be affected by environmental hazards and toxic chemicals. So with this, I wanted to begin to introduce our partners. I'm going to start off with Dagoberto Morales, and thank you, Kathy, for writing this up for me. I was looking for a bio for you, Dago. So Dagoberto Morales is a volunteer director of UNITIS Center for Farm Worker Advocacy. He has devoted his life to making the living and working conditions better for farm workers and immigrants. He has served on the Commission for Hispanic Affairs in Oregon, and also represented Oregon through the IME program of the Mexican Secretary of Foreign Affairs in Mexico. He successfully passed legislation requiring labor contracts to register all Mexican nationals with local consulate authorities to improve worker protections. His real passion is advocating for his people and is working together with them to make positive changes in our community. ONITE has been around for 20 years, but Dagoberto Morales has been doing the work for 35. Please give a round of applause for Dagoberto Morales. We have 2 other folks. Let's see here. Next, we have Carl Wimson. Carl Wimson is a PhD in geography, specializing in management of U.S. public lands, and he is executive director of the Northwest Forest Workers Center. Prior to joining the organization, Dr. Williamson was program director of community forestry and environmental research partnerships, a nationwide fellowship program based at the University of California, Berkeley, for graduate students conducting participatory research on forest-related issues in the United States. He has served on the advisory boards of several community forestry groups, evaluated sustainable agricultural programs, and worked as an apple picker and orchard hand, landscape laborer, school bus driver, and truck driver. He has authored several journal articles and book chapters on occupational safety and health among forest workers, social justice in the management of U.S. public lands, race and the environment, oral history, methodology, and participatory research. He has also edited 1 book on participatory research and natural resource management. Please, a round of applause for Carl Williamson. And last but certainly not least, we have Ramon Ramirez. Ramon Ramirez is the president and founding member of PECUN. Ramon was elected president in April 1997 after serving 5 one-year terms as vice president. Ramon serves on the board of directors of the Farm Worker Housing Development Corporation, Center for Social Inclusion, Farm Worker Justice Fund, the Alliance for a Just Society, Center for Popular Democracy, and the United Farm Workers of America Foundation. Ramon is an advisory to the U.S. Secretary of Labor, Tom Perez. Ramon is currently member of the Higher Education Coordinating Council for the state of Oregon. Ramon joined the Willamette Valley Immigration Project in 1977, handled immigrant visa cases until 1982, and coordinated the Immigration Project's fundraising and legislative work until 1985. Ramon is currently president of CAUSA, a statewide immigrant rights organization in Oregon. Ramon is currently involved nationally and internationally in the efforts to obtain a legalization program. Ramon works with the Fair Immigration Reform Movement, FIRM, through the Immigration Organization Committee of the Center for Community Change. Ramon is currently a member of Alliance for Citizenship, the coalition leading the fight for comprehensive immigration reform. Ramon was also involved in the Oregon voter registration and education through Acción Política Peconista. Ramon was awarded the 2003 Leadership for a Changing World by the Ford Foundation, the Janet Rankin Award, and is an Austin Bannerman Fellow. Ramon was awarded the 2009 Winnipeg Reader 50 Visionary of the World Award and was chosen Latino Hero of the Year by Regency Blue Cross of Oregon. The University of Oregon has chosen Ramon as its 2014 Elder in Residence. Please, a round of applause for Ramon Ramirez. And finally, me. I'm Jolie Bois. I'm the Environmental Justice and Community Outreach Manager for Beyond Toxics. I was a co-director of the Coalition Against Environmental Racism at the University of Oregon for 2 years, as well as the external director and political director for MECHA, the UO. So thank you. Before I finish, I just wanted to point out that these organizers have fought tooth and nail to bring their people together so that they can tap into their own power as well as take power. These three gentlemen know and understand that nothing will liberate those who are oppressed more than community autonomy. Facilities and hazards have gotten here through government permits. And it is because of this reason that communities of color have historically encountered our government through migrant raids, police brutality, boarding schools, and an overwhelming effort to take away our language and culture. And the evidence is irrefutable. It is because of this that I think there is a difficulty for government and communities of color to begin to work together to heal both sides. And I think this is one of the reasons why the EJ Task Force exists today. I ask you to think critically about how your agencies and your own power contributes either to liberation and the betterment of affected communities. I challenge you to reflect on whether or not your agency is a passive obstacle or an active enemy. With that, I turn it over to Dagoberto, Ramon, and Carl.
Buenos días. Good morning. Well, thank you, my wife Kathy, for giving him so wonderful words. But something Ramon forget to say is he's also founder of the Causa. It wasn't for Ramon, Causa wasn't exist. And it was hard, but now it's a strong organization statewide. Well, in 1996, it's like today, the harvest was almost over, and the problem of the workers was almost the same. Because a lack of payments, because a lack of respect, the workers always will take advantage for the employers. Because in 1996 and 1995, they promised bonuses, like try to keep the workers finish the harvest. Because sometimes the workers came from California, Texas, Arizona, and if they see the time is ready to go back to Washington because they can make more money because the harvest was almost over in Honor Valley. They moved to Washington. And the only way the growers can able to keep the workers was to promise bonuses and say, with the bonuses, we can give it to you after the harvest is in. And because sometimes workers pick like from 10 to 15 means a day, and working for 30 days or 45 days, it was accumulate a lot of money for those bonuses. And that year, the companies decide avoid that deal and say, we decide don't give it a bonus because We didn't make enough money this year, and we decided don't give the bonuses. And always the companies have that excuse, say we don't have enough money, almost getting broke, we cannot pay how we agree. It's always the excuse, but they're always going to be quiet for that kind of stuff. We never see any company being poor. They always seeking for more money, and always they more profit. They never under profit. And the workers kind of was disappointed, but because was, and the way how they deal with themselves, they was powerless. And we decided we have to seek some help to find how we can able to get those bonus backs. And at that time, we contacted the lawyer from legal service from Portland. Was in that time only was in Portland, was located, and because the legal center from the Jackson County, they decide they cannot take any case of growers because one of the main support of them was the growers, and they cannot take any case against them. And this is why we cannot able to find help in this area. And we decide to get them help, and they came and they kind of take the case, and some workers get the bonuses, some workers didn't get the bonuses. And from there, we find out we not only there was the bonuses problems, we find out was the pesticides problems, there was water problems, there was house problems, and was the wages problem, and we find that they was taking advantage of a lot of stuff, and that was normal because we always demanded, and we find out it wasn't normal. And the problem with the pesticides is when we were pruning, sometimes the sprayers come by and we just shift them aside to the sprayer pass and go back to the lane to pruners. And what was normal, but later wasn't normal. And it seemed like that sometime workers was shaking, and we thought was because it was cold, because it was the time when people get sick for flu and things like that, but it wasn't normal. Wasn't for the cold, but it was because we kind of intoxicated. From those things, we live on it. And we find out we just have to do more than just kind of restricted. And we find out that they should be kind of prevent us to get into the fields when they were spraying. They should be give us protection to when we applying, because most of it at that time, anybody in the orchard can apply the pesticides, as long as they can drive the tractor. And sometimes you can smoke, driving the tractor, you can go smoke, and it was okay. It wasn't okay, but they let us do that. It's because what's more easy to say is because they don't want to use the protection. And this is one of the reasons. And at that time, the OSHA came involved and see it wasn't right. They provide the suit, they provide the mask later on, but unfortunately, there's some kind of pesticides have to change every 4 hours, every 8 hours, depending how toxic they are, the pesticide. But the problem is sometimes, and some occasion, was weeks when they didn't change the filters or the mask. Sometimes you see the mask or the filters was having a hole. It doesn't make any good to see you have the mask when you have the filter was having a hole. This is one of those things when we ask someone to investigate, they just don't see the equipment, cannot verify if they are in the right condition or it have rips or have holes or something, because it doesn't make any good to say they have it, but it's not properly to have it. It's all these things. And the only problem we see was the water. Did you see the difference of the colors? This is the water the growers provide they to drink and the orchards, and this is regular water you can get for drinking. Because the state said they meet the standards, and they cannot push to the growers to provide better water and longer they meet the standards. Enable to push towards all employers to have better water, we have to change the standards. We have to make sure the water they have to provide have drinkable, because the state say even we know the water is not potable, but if they provide the water the PAT standard, that's it. They will comply with the law. They just every company just want to comply with those minimum standards if they don't have consequences. And this is one of those things that we have to make sure this legislation start pushing to pass the standard, put higher standard. The same like the city water can be the same for the labor camps, because the city water is different standard, and for the labor camp is different standards. It's kind of like a second-class workers who looks like or less than that. And this is probably 1940 can be okay, and 1950 be okay, 1930 can be okay, but not now. It's 2015.
Yeah.
Oh.
I was just going to ask, when did you get this water? This is labor camp water. When was this filled?
Yesterday.
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 This was filled was yesterday. Yeah, folks want to pass this around and look at it, and look at your comparison to the water that you drink.
At the same time?
Yeah.
And because those same problems been occur, and when the still going on, and the problems have in the camps on the orchards move also to the hotel industries. Now we have big problems in the motels. If anyone who rent a room, abuse, see the person to clean the room. If you're wishing to give a tip, give it to them. Don't leave it to in the room, because most of these tips don't go to the person to clean the rooms. Because they have a supervisors to go check the room before they get there, and they cut the tips. And this is one of those reasons. It's very common. Most of it always happens. When you see the races come to the motel industry is because the workers who clean the room, they started before, like a 10 room was okay for a period of 8 hours, 6 hours of work. Later on, they added 2, 3, 5 more rooms. Instead of 10, now 15 for the same time. And sometimes they just push them to do more and more and more. And sometimes some rooms cleaned, not so dirty. Sometimes there are some rooms very dirty. And this is something that for women is always in a hurry. And some motels or hotels, they find out if they told them they come instead of 8:30, can come at 9 or 10, they know the workers have to be hurry to finish the job before 4 or before 5, because it's when the children arrive from the school, and no one can able to catch the kids from the school. And this is, they know they have to hurry, because that make them work harder for the same amount of money they was doing to them before. And this is one of those things that also people have to advocate more, have to focus on more also for the workers, not only in Jackson County, it's a statewide problem, the nationwide problem, probably international-wide problem. It's those things. And one of those things in 1991 happened, and most of the people things that they didn't notice, but as state legislature changed the workers' compensation law. Didn't make it for weather, make it for a lot bad. Because what happened is, if the worker get injured on the job, they have to go to the doctor, occupational health, or something. They have a list of doctors they send. They actually shouldn't have the list to say, it's the only doctor you have to go see to see if you really hurt or you don't. And this is the problem, because the doctors never going to say, yeah, this is the real problem with these workers. They always say, I can just keep going and see what happened. What they to try to in the future tell them is in your brain. Since you have a head problem, hurts, or you have back problem, it's in your head. It's not. It's because you are old. But the X-rays say something about it. It's because when people get old, try to convince the worker it's their fault. It's not a worker problem. And this is one of the biggest problems. And if they find it with other doctors, but the other doctors say, yeah, it's a back problem because this kind of movement, or because of this kind of work you do, this will make it worse. But if that doctor has less reputation, of the doctor to say before was okay, that doctor not gonna compete with him because for the standard. And I don't know how they work in there, but most of it, they kind of don't want to contradict each other. And this is going to be came to the big problems. And this is the insurance so eloquent to say, it's my doctor say he's okay, why your doctor say it's not okay, he's not okay. Even if they have the higher evidence, they has a problem, but still they think it's not a problem. And why we're saying this is because one year, one of the forest workers was planting trees, but they decide to put those the chemicals, this little like a pills next to the tree. There's a little tree where they plant. And because those bags sometimes those have a hole because been used so long. And it was raining, and they have those pills in the pack, and those pills start diluted with the water and come to their legs. And later on, they burned the legs. And it was about like Friday, and he came from work. He laid out on Saturday, Sunday, On Monday, they decide to take to the doctor, and they say, "Oh, it was a burn because it's intoxicated for some kind of chemicals." And he had treatment for, but when he applied for workers' comp, one of the weirdest things happened is that one of the doctors say, the infection the patient has come with the mosquito bite or the bag from. The only kind of that bag grow on the couch, grow on the bed, never grows on the forest. And that is it. They won the case because of the doctor. This is one of those things that really have to be careful with that kind of stuff because always it's very kind of common, that kind of lies, and this is because for the money, and a lot of people lie for the money. And this is one of those things that we have to find out. And one of those things that when I was saying about we find the problem with the wages is because like this time of the year when there's a harvest, they have a two standard, hour rate and bean bay. And when they say the bean is because how many, depend how many beans you pick a day is how much you can make a day. And per hour rate, the amount of the hours you work, you get paid. But this is the problem. In the orchard is a lot of fruit, they told the workers is by the bin. They pick a lot. And when they go in the area, it's rallow, it's not very much, say, okay, it's by hour. But when they come on the paycheck, they say was changed. When they was by the hour, was by bin. When they were with the bin, was by the hour. And they always just go like a straight minimum wage. The worker didn't make extra like he thought he did. And it's hard to verify the kind of situation. And this is one of the things, this kind of problem is because sometimes when you think, or when we think we can make some extra cash, we work harder and we don't even take breaks to make some extra cash. And later on, we just get in the same. This is one of the biggest problems sometimes. We don't even think what kind of water we drink, you just drink it, just keep going. And this is one of those problems occur. And the reason I went to get the water yesterday, because one of the workers, like 3 weeks ago, was saying his co-worker was very sick because the contractor, they saw when they asked for water, it was hot day, and they asked for water, and he said, "Oh, you guys want water? Oh, I'll be back." And he went to just get the water from the pond they was using for irrigation. He said, "Oh, this is the water," just like that, because most of they kind of act like they act in the way they think they are immune at everything. But sometimes it's because we have, the state have no much supervision under them, especially this time of the year. Because what happened is the growth was all the corporation has a very successful, eloquent way to lie to say, why we have to pay more tax on with the government already have too much taxes? It's because they know if there is less money in the state, is less supervision. And they know if they can have no supervision, they can get away with everything. And this is part of the problem. This is why we say we have to find a way how we can able to support all kind of involved with the political arena. That way we can able to try to get some power in there. And this is why we decide to have a call that Latino caucus, political caucus, and we call Mi Voz Cuenta, and we support a lot of candidates and we support a lot of legislations, and because this is the only way the community is going to get power is if we sit on the table to how we decide things. Okay, and thank you very much.